Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we are going to take a closer look at the growing debate surrounding Muslim leaders' calls for troop deployment and what this means for the political, military, and humanitarian future of the region. This development has become one of the most talked about subjects recently, with many people seeing it as a turning point in the unity of the Muslim world, while others remain skeptical about whether such plans can realistically be executed. To understand this better, it is important to examine the different layers of this issue. From how it looks on the outside, to the inner complexities, its possible performance, safety concerns, unique elements, the costs involved, and finally, what conclusions can be drawn. From the outside, the move appears bold and powerful. Leaders across different Muslim nations have expressed their intent to show solidarity and to defend the rights of oppressed people in war zones. The exterior of these announcements conveys strength, unity, and a long overdue willingness to take collective action rather than depending on outside powers. Many supporters view this as a refreshing stance, one that symbolizes resistance to outside intervention and emphasizes the shared identity of Muslim countries. The image being projected is of a unified front, one that can potentially alter the balance of power in regions where conflicts have dragged on for years. On the inside, however, the situation is not as simple as it looks. Although the idea of joint deployment is inspiring, the reality is complicated by differences among Muslim states. Rivalries, conflicting political interests, and varying levels of military readiness make it difficult to achieve full alignment. The interior side of this discussion reveals questions about who would lead such a force, what the mission objectives would be, and how disputes between member nations would be resolved. These internal challenges show that while unity is the message, in practice coordination will be the greatest obstacle. In terms of performance, a joint troop deployment could change the dynamics of the region if executed properly. If Muslim nations combine their resources, manpower, and strategic planning, the performance of such a force could bring stability to certain areas, deter outside powers from interference, and provide a sense of security for communities living under constant threat. However, performance is not guaranteed. Without a clear strategy, sufficient funding, and long-term commitment, the deployment could falter. The effectiveness of such a move would depend entirely on how well leaders are able to cooperate and manage the complexities of modern warfare. The safety features of this plan are both promising and concerning. On one hand, deploying troops could protect vulnerable populations, shield civilians from attacks, and provide humanitarian support in crisis zones. It could also send a strong warning to aggressors that Muslim nations are prepared to act collectively to defend their people. On the other hand, the risks are enormous. Soldiers would be placed in direct conflict, potentially escalating wars instead of calming them. The safety of both the deployed forces and the civilians in affected areas depends on careful planning, strict rules of engagement, and diplomatic coordination to avoid wider bloodshed. What makes this initiative unique is the symbolic weight it carries. For decades, the idea of Muslim unity has been discussed, but rarely translated into real military action. This call for troop deployment stands out as an opportunity to finally put words into practice. It highlights independence, self-reliance, and the determination to protect shared values without waiting for approval or assistance from foreign powers. The uniqueness lies not only in the possibility of joint military action, but also in the precedent it could set for future cooperation in political, economic, and humanitarian fields. The price of such a move, however, cannot be ignored. The financial costs of military deployment are staggering. Maintaining troops abroad requires massive funding for logistics, weapons, supplies, and continuous support. Beyond the economic burden, there are political costs. Leaders risk angering both their domestic populations, who may not support prolonged military ventures, and international powers, who may view this as a challenge to their influence. Most importantly, there's the human cost. Soldiers' lives will be at risk, and conflicts could escalate, leading to civilian casualties. The price is therefore more than numbers. It is a combination of economic strain, political consequences, and human suffering. In conclusion, Muslim leaders' calls for troop deployment reflect a strong desire for unity and independence in the face of ongoing crises. On the surface, it shows determination and collective willpower. Inside, it is challenged by divisions and difficulties in coordination. Its performance could either bring stability and deterrence or fail without proper planning. Safety features highlight both protective potential and the risk of escalation. Its uniqueness lies in the symbolic power of Muslim unity, while the price reminds us of the heavy costs such a decision entails. Whether this becomes a historic turning point or another unfulfilled promise will depend on how seriously leaders take the challenge of moving from speeches to actionable, well-coordinated steps that balance strength with responsibility.